Good day, everyone, and welcome to the show. Psalm 107 tells us to give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and the wonderful things he has done. That's what we're all about here at Heart Matters, proclaiming the good things that God has done in the hearts and lives of his people. We've put together an inspiring episode for all of you today. In this show, our story comes from a man who has seen the healing hand of God on his life right from his birth. Listen in as Josh Boyde shares some of his story and how trusting Jesus has become an essential part of his journey. Also joining us as today's musical guest, we're excited to have Lesley singing a couple of songs for us. So wherever you find yourself right now, we hope that the next half hour is just what your soul needs. Enjoy the show.
As you open my eyes to the works of your hands, when I'm blind in my way, there your spirit will lay. As you open my eyes to the works of your hands, as you open my eyes to the works of your hands, oceans will part, nations come at the whisper of your call. Hope will rise, glory shown in my life. Your will be done. Present suffering may pass, Lord, your mercy will last. As you open my eyes to the works of your hand, and my heart will find praise, I'll delight in your ways. As you open my eyes to the works of your hands, as you open my eyes to the works of
Heart Matters will return in just a moment.
Looking for quality products and top-notch service? From lumber to paint and refrigerators to sofa, your local Notre Dame Home Furnishings and Notre Dame Castle Building Centers can help you complete your home, serving you from 16 locations across Newfoundland and Labrador, 6 days a week.
Scott's Transport Limited is a family-owned and operated full transportation company located in beautiful Deer Lake. In business for over 25 years and with a fleet of modern equipment and dedicated team, we service the growing needs of businesses from Newfoundland and Labrador to Ontario and locations in between. If it matters to you, it matters to us. Closed captioning provided by Terry's Tints, custom canvases, framing, embroidery, printing, craft supplies, fabrics, leathers, and furs, located in Happy Valley, Goose Bay.
My name is Josh Boyde, originally from Cartersville, Virgin Arm area, but most of my life I grew up in Ontario, all over the place. I've been married close to 15 years, beautiful wife, and I have a 10-year-old daughter. I'm a full-time paramedic for the last, into my 13th year now, but also in 2013, I pursued my passion for cooking and started my own chef business, personal private chef for in-house dinner parties, and that's been a blessing from God as well. From a very young age, I can remember probably as young as 5 years old giving my heart to Christ. And I was born with a blood defect between me and my mother, where in the womb my mom's blood interacted with mine and caused severe respiratory distress. So upon my birth, the doctors basically gave a 50% chance that I would survive. And through the grace of God and through the prayers of my parents and the prayers of the church, God healed me at birth. And since that, I mean, I've seen God's grace, and I've seen God's hand on my life in a real way. 2010, I just got my job in 28 Hospital that June, and that December month I was driving down to 28, got up as a nice crisp morning, and I got in my truck in the dash. It was 4 degrees, so I was thinking, well, you know, it's a beautiful crisp morning. It's no concern about driving conditions. The sun was shining, so I left to drive to work, and the two vehicles in front of me were driving rather slow. And as I passed, I realized why they were driving slow. It was a flash freezing that morning, and the entire pavement was covered in ice, a thin layer of ice. So I lost control of my truck. I did 3 barrel rolls, and I shot through the sunroof of my pickup truck, 35 feet above the tree line, and where I landed was 55 feet from my truck. You know, right away I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm alive, thank you. So I kind of braced myself, flipped to my back, and then just stood still. So my leg was excruciating pain, my right leg and my left arm. So that they had to get a chainsaw and cut down 3 or 4 trees to get me out of the thickness of the woods that I was in. Strap me to a backboard, get me to 28 Hospital. They run the x-rays. They had determined that my left lower leg, the tib and fib, was broken, and that my humerus looked to be fractured as well, my left humerus, the long bone in your arm. Kept me on the backboard, wanted me sent to St. John's to Gander for a full head-to-toe CT. From the time of my accident, this is now 7 hours later. During that process, from the accident to 7 hours, I had a team of friends and family and believers that were just interceding in prayer on behalf of my accident and my injuries. I get in Gander Hospital. They run the full scans that they had to run, the head-to-toe CAT scan. He proceeded to say to me that I see nothing that Twillingate Hospital seen on their x-rays when it comes to a fracture in that leg. And then he had a resident, which is a student doctor, with him. She said, "Have you ever broke your arm before?" And I said, "Never." I said, "The only bone in my body I've broke is my collarbone when I was younger." And she said, "Okay." She said, "Because around the bone," she said, "when a bone heals, there's calcified deposits around the bone, around the fracture site." And she said around that bone, she said there was calcified deposits around the fracture site that we, potentially could have been there. So she said that kind of puzzled her at that point, right? That it had looked like it had been a fracture that healed. Definitely believe that the healing process had happened and that I had received a full healing from the time of my accident to the time of the scans were done. And then we'll fast forward to 2015. So I was working in Twillingate Hospital, and I was in a patient's room. I felt my heart felt like it stopped for a minute, and the pauses in my heart kind of took my breath away, where instantly I kind of felt a bit weak, and I was having runs of them that were significant enough that it was of concern. Having some of the knowledge as to where this could lead, anxiety crept in, and fear. It just kind of took over my life, and it became very crippling to my work environment, to my family environment. So I waited, the period of 2 months, being very anxious, and I could tell the grip of the fear was having a toll on my life. I wasn't as intentional with my wife or with my daughter. I was kind of distancing myself from church and from God as well through that time. So finally the time comes, I go into Grand Falls. I have this echocardiograph done on my heart. When you're born, you have a hole between your left and right atrium, which is called a patent-formal oval. And this hole will heal over time when you mature, when you age, when you grow. This hole had remained in my heart that I was unaware of, right? And as well, there's a pulmonary valve in your heart that opens and shuts, and mine wasn't shutting all the way. So of course, given these results, it led to more anxiety, more concern, and I had to wait another couple of months to get into this appointment. So finally the day come when I got into the appointment, and I get on the treadmill, and the doctor's there monitoring everything as I'm going. And after the 20 minutes was over, he looked at me and he said, "I see nothing wrong with your heart." So he said, "Just carry on your life," he said, and he said, "Try to put it out of your memory, out of your mind, to not worry on it." He said, "We've got the results here that everything seems to be fine." At that moment, I just felt the heaviness of this weight that I've been carrying, with this anxiety, with this worry, with this fear, had just lifted. And then it was almost as the still voice of God was just there, and he was like, "I got you." I may have got distracted, I may have not lost my focus, but he didn't, and he had me. So then we'll fast forward to March of 2020. I'd start to get chilled, and I started shaking, and I didn't know really what was happening. But I knew at that moment that, something wasn't right. They ran some tests, ran some blood work, and I stayed the night. They admitted me on observation during the night. 4 days later, I get a phone call from the emerge physician, and he calls me and he's like, "I need you to come in." He said, "Are you in Gander?" He said, "Looks like there's some fungus in your blood. Left untreated, has, at least an 80% morbidity rate." 2 days later, I get a phone call from another emerge physician, and they were concerned that this fungus had now somehow been misread and it was a bacteria. This is March of 2020, so it's kind of at the beginning stages in Newfoundland for COVID. So they put me in an isolation room, admitted me to ICU. So they were repeating the blood work daily. All the blood work results were coming back. They couldn't replicate this bacteria that they found in the first blood work that they drew. So it felt like it was test after test after test. And during this entire process, I had been in lockdown in this room in ICU, and I drew close to God in an unreal way. And as well, I had a team of friends and family that were praying as well. They decide, okay, well, because of the 2015 results of my echocardiograph I had on my heart, they were now concerned the infection was coming maybe from this hole in my heart. This is how it got into my bloodstream. So they were like, well, let's redo an echocardiograph of your heart. And he says, I have your results here. He said, but it's very conflicting. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he said 2015, he said you had an echo done. He said that showed a patent-formal ovo, which is the hole in your heart, and showed mild pulmonary stenosis, which is that pulmonary valve that doesn't shut all the way. And he said, we're looking at the results, and the cardiologist that read your report doesn't see any of these. They were sure that it was something in my blood, but they couldn't replicate it. And, and then to get the echo results, I just see that, during that 5-year span from 2015 to 2020, that again, it was confirmation that, God again saying, I got you. Through the uncertain times of waiting for a result, or, like back to my accident, being transported from Twillingate to Gander on a backboard, not knowing the outcome, with my heart palpitations, my PVCs, I was admitted into the ICU in March of 2020 with, again, unknown results. During those times, is where I kind of drew close to God. I chose to reach out to those of faith, reach out to my friends and my family for prayer, and to intercede on behalf of the circumstance and the situation I was in. We all have times in our lives where we may not want to trust God in certain situations and circumstances. But through it all, His grace is there. And no matter if we lose faith or trust in Him, He still loves us.
We appreciate all of you tuning in each week, and we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email or a message through social media telling us what you've enjoyed about the show, or give us a suggestion for an upcoming episode. And if you follow us online, you can keep up to date with the upcoming events and info. Still to come on today's show, The Bottom Line with Mike Freake, and more music from Lesley Marsh when Heart Matters returns.
From envelopes to tractor-trailer loads, Dooley's Trucking caters to all your shipping needs. Capable of meeting all your shipping requirements throughout Newfoundland. Dooley's Trucking is your choice for fast and efficient delivery. Ship with the best. Ship Dooley's.
RE/MAX would like to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of the most important transaction of your life. Our mandate is giving back to the communities that serve us. We will be honored to help you with your next move. Call any of our offices today and let one of our RE/MAX agents go to work for you.
In Canada, it is estimated that around 14 to 15,000 people are injured every year involving these ladders. Now, ladders are great, but man, can they ever be dangerous. All it takes is a quick distraction and a rush to get the job done, and before you know it, you've missed a step or you've slipped, and then you become one of the statistics. The most important thing is to make sure that your ladder is against something solid, firm, and secure. You see, hope is like a ladder that we lean against something. When you were a little child, you didn't realize this, but at the time, your ladder of hope was leaned against your parents. Your hope had everything to do with your parents' ability to care for you. Now, the older that we get, we automatically move our ladder and started to lean our hope against things that we feel will be able to support our lives, our dreams, and our ambitions. So what do? Well, we think if we can just have enough money, my ladder is going to hold. And if I can just get the right education, get into the right schools, or work towards that degree, then my ladder is going to hold. Or if I can just make the right deal, if I can make the right connections and get that promotion, everything is going to be good. My ladder is going to hold. Or if I can just marry the right person, or live in the right house and have the children that I've always wanted, then for sure my ladder is going to hold and everything is going to be just fine. But what happens when the thing that you've leaned your ladder on comes falling down? What happens when the thing that you put your hope in can't sustain you anymore? What happens if you lose that job, or the deal falls through, or the health issue happens, or your relationship doesn't turn out the way that you thought it would? What then? What do you do? Where do you go? And who do you turn to? Now, if you've ever watched Heart Matters before today, you know that we love to tell stories of how faith has helped people go through some of the most difficult of circumstances. You've heard of people whose faith in God has sustained them when they faced a cancer diagnosis, faced death of a loved one, and when they've walked through tragedy. People who have lost just about everything. But what has been the one thing that has carried them through it all? They have learned the difference that leaning your life on Jesus can make. And they've experienced His love and presence and strength and His forgiveness. And if you haven't yet, you can experience all of that for yourself. Leaning your life on Him makes all the difference. Truthfully, most people don't even think about hope until they feel hopeless. And maybe that's you today. Maybe you've learned the hard way that leaning your life on the things of this world has only brought you disappointment and pain. Maybe you've been hurt by people you've trusted, and you've been disappointed because your full bank account has yet to give you a full life. Or that fix or that high that you just had over the weekend still makes you feel empty and unfulfilled. Because here's the bottom line. We all have a ladder of hope that is leaning against something. The question is, what's yours leaning on? And will it hold?
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches over me. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. And I sing because I'm happy, and I sing He watches over me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches. Oh, I know He watches. Oh, I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches over me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches. He watches. Oh, I know He watches. Oh, I know He watches over me.
Do you believe that He watches over you? Do you trust God today? His word is clear that we will indeed face hard times and we will walk through struggles in this life. But for the one whose trust is in Jesus, there is hope. Hope of a better tomorrow. Hope that He will provide in your time of need. I want to thank today's guests for sharing their hope with us. And our prayer is that you grab onto that hope for yourself. Our hope has a name, and it's Jesus. We believe if you seek Him with all of your heart, you'll find Him with open arms. Well, we've reached the end of our time for today, but we invite you all back again next week.